Hi, thanks for joining me today. Did you like that piece? You're going to learn more about that as well as a vision surrounding it. Hi, I'm Timothy O'Neill, and I will be sharing for a few minutes today a vision around how I believe artificial intelligence will bring about a new renaissance. I am a technology leader. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, last 3 to 4 years in artificial intelligence specifically, leading product and engineering teams. I'm also a violinist and composer with decades of experience performing, composing all across the United States and internationally. Last but not least, I'm also a husband and a father, and that last point is really what drives me with this. It's really about shaping the future for my kids, for the next generation, and I believe artificial intelligence has a key role in doing that. So what do I mean by a new renaissance? Well, artificial general intelligence is coming sometime in the future, and what that means is it's AI that can solve problems and provide answers on things that it wasn't specifically trained on. And so as you can imagine, with technology like that, there's a lot of threats and opportunities. And one opportunity that I'm honing in on is the separation between what machines are good at, solving problems, looking at a lot of data, and what humans are good at, creativity, ethical concerns, etc. And specifically on the creativity front, one of the things that I think is really the pinnacle of human creativity is high arts and classical music specifically. How are we going to accomplish that? Well, I've identified 4 key goals that I think are going to help us. First and foremost, we need to educate and connect, and that's really what I'm doing here. It's bringing together folks from various disciplines, industries, and having them start to talk about this and gaining interest. The second one is advancing the craft, specifically the musical arts. The third one is to increase demand of classical music across the general population. And fourth, probably the most important one, is ensuring that human artists have a place in the new way of doing things. The first point, educate and connect. So as you can imagine, there's a ton of interest, ton of investment, a lot of research going on in the tech industry on generative AI and artificial intelligence in general. And so what I'm looking to do here is to take that enthusiasm, take that investment, take those conversations and that exploration, and marry it up with the classical music discipline. Bring in artists, bring in advocates, bring in administration, and get those folks talking and start to generate interest and explore the art of the possible when it comes to introducing AI into classical music. The second point is what I call advancing the craft. And really, this is all about embracing innovation. And innovation is certainly not a new concept when it comes to classical music. You think historically moving from Baroque to classical to Romantic to 20th century and beyond. You think about new instruments, new capabilities within ensembles. You think about, as a composer, the ability to write music on a computer. As a performer, having a tablet on a stand and being able to operate that via foot pedal. And I believe AI is really the next step in innovation in terms of how it can impact classical music. Now, we are a little bit premature or immature right now when it comes to the capabilities. You see that bullet point highlighted in red at the bottom. There is some work that needs to be done to advance models to become more capable. There are music models out there. A lot of them are trained more on pop, things that are more commercially popular at this point in time. But I believe that there's certainly an opportunity to train models more specifically on classical music. And I've even written a prototype that you'll see a little bit later that uses classical music within the context of AI-generated music. How do I think AI can help? Number one, I think AI can bring personalization to the process. Imagine the average person, maybe they're a Taylor Swift fan, and maybe they have a certain favorite song of hers. We can use AI to then potentially recommend a classical song that's somewhat similar to that and get them interested in that song. I'm going to get technical for just a moment and talk about the process of embedding. At a high level, it's simply taking an object, translating into numbers so that a computer can then compare that to another enumerated object and make a recommendation based on that. So we can use something like a Copilot or even a recommendation system to have that Taylor Swift fan be recommended a classical piece that they may be interested in and start listening to. I think there's also some value in the content creation. Imagine the concept of a composer in a pocket, right? You know, you think about, if I want to generate classical music or write classical music today, I've got to have a lot of training, right? I've got to have theory, I've got to have practice, I've got to go through a series of steps to get to the point where I can create something meaningful. But what if I had a personalized composer in my pocket that could generate something for me based on my mood, that could generate something for me just based on what I'm interested in listening to? Now, by no means do I want to see something like this replace the masterworks of masters and composers who have spent the years of training. But just to get folks to a point where they can actually generate something meaningful and therefore pique their interest in the overall space of classical music. When I think about potential speed bump that we need to overcome, it really goes back to that investment. We just don't have the tools in place to do this today. To date, there hasn't been a ton of interest in it, but working through those first two goals, I think we can get to a place where this third goal can be more feasible. So this last goal is what I believe to be most important. This is all about ensuring that artists are involved in the process, human artists. And so first and foremost, I want to make sure that human artists have a say, have stake in the process, that their works and their content is used fairly, that they're compensated, and that they're part of the process. I think this is also a potential opportunity to elevate the opportunities that underrepresented artists have, folks from different countries, from marginalized groups, giving them a bigger stake in the process and being able to amplify the platform that their works are seen on. In red, you see what I believe to be kind of the biggest speed bump. This is really defining what's ethically right, what's legally right. What are regulatory concerns that are coming out? We're seeing this even outside of music. Even right now, there's a lawsuit between the New York Times and OpenAI in terms of how content was used to train models. And so the outcome of that, as well as regulatory frameworks that are being defined in the European Union and the United States, I think will go a long way in determining how we go about this process. And now I'll spend a few minutes talking about a personal work of mine that I call Genflections. It's a prototype of sorts as far as advancing the craft that I talked about earlier. And so it's a work for violin and generative AI. It's an audiovisual work that incorporates both performance as well as imagery. It's in 3 movements, about 17 and a half minutes long, and it really explores and pushes the boundaries of the creative process. It looks at how AI and human creativity intermesh, and how the outputs can generate something new and novel. So I'm going to spend a slide walking through the process in composing this work. First and foremost, it was all about human-centered design, that human in the center of the process. So I served as the composer, the performer, the engineer, the interactor with the AI. I would generate prompts in the form of audio clips that I composed and then played back and recorded, as well as text-based prompts. I then fed these prompts into the AI, and the AI would generate music based on those prompts. In some cases, I fed those clips back into the AI, kind of a reinforcement style of prompting. When I had a product that was sufficient, I then added my own music on top of that in the form of pre-written work as well as improvisation. I also created images using AI that fit the music, and then I engineered the entire thing together into an audiovisual work that you'll be seeing shortly. I mentioned that this work has 3 movements, and the most interesting difference between the 3 is that composition process. The first movement, Singularity Mirror, strictly follows that process that you saw on the last slide. There's a lot of interchange between the violin and the AI. To be honest, this is the only movement that actually has a fully pre-written violin part with actual staff music, and it really focuses on the interchange where the violin has a part and then the AI has a part. And there is some mixture and some overlap as we go through the movement, but by and large, it's very separate and distinct. The second movement is almost exactly the opposite. It's a movement that I've titled Channel Surfing. Think about an old school radio where you're dialing the knob and you're getting a lot of static, you're getting different stations, and that's what this piece is all about. It all starts with an initial clip generated by the AI that gets fed back into the AI multiple times to generate different styles of music. And then as the violinist, I improv on top of it to mirror the style that it's evoking. The third movement is called existential convergence. It's all about looking at the difference between the violin and the AI and then merging the two into a single entity by the end. So the process is somewhat similar to the second movement, except instead of the jump cuts and the severe changes that you hear in the second movement, this third movement is all about smoothing the lines and creating a very different atmosphere that, as I mentioned, then blends into a converged entity at the end. I hope you found that content to be interesting. If you'd like to learn more, you can visit my website. If you'd like to hear the entire work, it's available on YouTube, and I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. With that, I'm going to leave you with a few more moments of my work, Genflections.